Recording in progress.
Good morning. Can you all hear me? Am I audible? Yes, sir. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Do we have usual number attending the class, or should we wait? We have 45, including me. Shall we start? Or?
Yes, sir, let's start. Others will be joined.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't very sure what the exact number of the lecture is. I thought this may be 3, but it could be 4 or 5, depending on how you have progressed with the previous sessions. So if it's wrong, please do make the correction and put it in the right order. What we are basically going to do in this discussion to have sort of a theoretical understanding as to how we understand our consumers. Because when I say consumers, we will be looking at 2 different types of consumers. One, individual or final consumers in consumption process, and then organizational buying behavior of individuals or groups for their end consumption. That's one area we will be focusing on. And then we will be very briefly touching on B2B or organizational buying behavior as well. Buying for the purpose of maybe reproducing or reselling. That's what we mean by organizational buying. So these are the 2 areas we will be focusing on. And as I said before, we will be looking at sort of a theoretical perspective that we can adopt to understand consumer behavior. This is sort of a theoretical topic which will be discussed in sort of connection with some practical applications. Just to give it a start, I thought of having a discussion with you based on a video, content video you may have seen on YouTube. I'm going to play this now. You got to watch this not for fun, but for learning purpose. Some of you may have already seen this. You may have looked at it from various perspectives. But today, we will be looking at this for the purpose of understanding some theoretical aspects of marketing. Right? So I'm going to play this. By the way, my name is Dushan. I'm attached to the Department of Marketing of the faculty, and some of you may have seen me in person on campus, and for some of you, my face and my voice would be new. I have been teaching marketing from year 2004, almost 18 years now. That doesn't mean that I know everything of marketing. My area of specialization or area of interest is consumer behavior. That is why your subject coordinator, Professor Samara Singh, wanted me to take up this class on consumer behavior. I might take 1 or 2 sessions towards the end as well, but main responsibility of your subject lies with Professor Amar Singh and Professor Chandralal. I'm just jumping in between to discuss 1 or 2 topics. So that's how it's going to be rolling out. Right. So here is the video. watch it, try to sort of have an idea as to what you think the target audience of this particular advertisement or content video, who they are targeting it. And why do you think they are targeting, and what evidence you can collect from this content to support your idea? If you say that this particular video is targeting this group of people, you need to find evidence from the video itself to support your idea. Right.
Dino. Fancy meeting you here. මේ ගොඩයට මොන ගොල්ෆ්ද? #new rich. Gehan. Never expected you to be here. මෝ ඉතාලියනේ හිටියේ. Thought he was in quarantine. Shit. Last time I saw you, you were having a small problem at that key party. Don't believe everything you hear at your boys' club. Boys' club කියලා කියන්නේ ඉතින් මුං ඉලින්ද ළඟ සංගමය. Also, I was a little tired that day, okay? Speaking of small, how's that small business of yours doing? It's not small anymore, actually. It's huge now. It's humongous. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, please stop. Kind of huge. Yeah, it's so big you can see it from space. From space? I just bought 30 hectares of durian in Malaysia. අපිනේ දන්නේ ඔය දූරියන් අස්සේ මොනවාද ship කරන්න කියලා? And what about you? How's your budget hotel business doing? රුපියල් 800 room, hotel 3 lakhs. Business must be down, no? Are you in the red? Are you looking to sell? If so, I'm looking to buy. We can close the deal today if you want. Oh, sorry. No, that's all right. Your loss? කියන්නේ මුට. Actually, our couples, budget travelers might be down by 40%, but my new pharmaceutical arm has grown by 600% thanks to the coronavirus. Oh, you all developed a vaccine? No. Then? We sell masks and hand sanitizer. Must feel great living on other people's misery. How's your son, by the way? He's a bloody rotter. Still a rotter? What? No. What I meant was, has he gotten hotter? What? What I meant was, is he still into modeling? Still in the closet in this day and age. No, he graduated actually. Finally. Degree ජාති පහක් විතර කරලා තියෙනවා. ඌ පහම fail. ඌ මෝ වගේම ගොනෙක්. In what? Law. Honorary. I guess money can buy you anything. So what does he want to do next? Get a wife, make children. What else to do? Yeah. What's your son up to? Oh, he works for NASA. Shit. Wasn't your son also doing some aerospace? No. That didn't work out actually. But my daughter got into university. Must be Shri Mardanapuram. How's your ex-wife? Which one? The second one. Gosh. Janaki is the second. That one. Don't ask. That's the one who took half his money. Janaki, the first, actually invested about 40% for a new venture. Plantations. Doria. That poor face backstabbing. How's your wife, by the way? Muta salli thiyene moy gෑණි හින්දා. #gold digger. She's done quite well for herself. She's the founder chairman of her own company. Oh, what's the company? Panic Super. The supermarket that never runs out.
ලෙඩ දුක විපතක බඩු ගන්න හොයනකොට ස්ටොක් රන් අවුට් නොවන තැන කවදත් අපේ පැනික් සුපර්.
They're actually having an IPO right now. Really? But I thought the stock market was down. Equity experts identified that incipient devaluation of inimical competition offers us a credible opportunity. Thesaurus එක දිගාරින්න වෙලාව හරි. Well, Machang, due to the Brobdingnagian opportunity presented by high white knuckle stocks, I have acquired by adroit hedging, arbitraging, and my generally extravagant investment skills the prepotent position in her humdrum establishment. What? I just bought the majority stake. What? Looking forward to working with your wife very closely.
How come I didn't see you at the big match this year? අපේ ටෙන්ට් එකේ බැච් 3-4කින් විතර ගහන්න බලන් ඉන්නවා මූට.
I was at a more exclusive tent, Machang. ඕකු නානේ. 5-star hotel check-in වෙලා laundry දාන්න නැතුව කාමරේ ඇඳුම් හොදන එක අමු. මූ මලාට වීදම් කරන්නේ නැහැ.
Which tent is that? The Defenders?
Nope. Way better. The worshippers.
Anyway, Machang, I better get going. We probably might not bump into each other again, so...
Why, you're dying?
No.
Then you're poor again.
No.
You're migrating.
No.
Going to prison.
That's our friend Alexander.
Then?
I don't need to come here to play golf anymore, Machang. I can play at home.
What, mini golf?
No, the real deal.
Really? Where?
show off කරන යාළුවන්ට එපා නිකං second වෙන්න any day every day ගෙදර ඉඳන් golf ගහන්න future proof asset එකක අදම invest කරන්න Canterbury golf apartment එකක් අදම ගන්න.
For the first time ever in Sri Lanka and South Asia, in the heart of Piliyandala Kahatudua, lies the first ever Victorian-style golf resort apartments and residencies with a 9-hole golf course, 50-plus activities and a world-class wellness center. With state-of-the-art amenities and world-class brands used for your satisfaction, the resort also has its very own wellness facility complete with a 30-bed medical center, Ayurveda treatment center with 20 luxury rooms and a world-class spa. Canterbury Golf Resort Apartments and Residencies by Homeland Skyline, with a range of golf resort apartments, garden apartments and residencies to choose from, starting at 9 million rupees upwards. Call us now on 0710 444 111 for inquiries.
අදම ගන්න.
Right, okay. I hope you watched it carefully. And what do you think? What do you think is the target market?
So the target market is like high-end consumers who are having a good purchasing power.
Very good. High-end consumers. Mm-hmm. Right. May I know your name, please?
I'm Kavinder, sir.
Kavinder.
Kavinder.
Kavinder, right. Kavinder, yes. What made you think so? What did you pick from the content to support your idea?
Because they were boasting about what are they having. So they were having big businesses. So their children were, some of the children were working in NASA and some are studying in universities, even their wives. And also someone was talking, he's having an ex-wife. Most of the time we know the rich people or the high-end people, they are having 2 or more wives like that. So because of those things, I thought of...
That's a good answer. Okay. I don't know if research supports it, but anyway. Okay. Right. Okay.
Because of those things, I thought the advertisement was focusing high-end consumers.
Right. Okay. Right. Anyone else? That's right. Okay. Yes. Golf. They talk about golf. They don't talk about LA or something like that. Volleyball. They talk about golf, and they talk about playing golf at home. So that is all, going sort of to the extreme level of, playing the game more exclusively. Yes. What else? What else? Anything else? Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Is it Hustler? Right. Thank you, Hassan. Now, yes, very good. The facilities they're talking about in the apartment complex and the type of sports they play, and as Kavinda said, all the other symbolic features. Now, thank you for bringing it to the light and having this really good discussion. So now you have, I think you have covered your initial sections of marketing subject. Now, in the marketing orientations, like production, product selling, marketing, those what we call philosophies or concepts, in the marketing, societal marketing, and holistic marketing philosophies, you may have discussed how important it is for organizations, for marketers to have a clear understanding about who their target market is, what exactly they are looking for. Right? So that is theoretically very well supported. No organization can survive in the business context today unless they try to satisfy needs and wants of the consumers. Long time ago, it was not the case. But today, even for survival, you need to ensure that you're trying to satisfy the needs and wants of the consumers. Now, here is another way of explaining the same point. Can you see the whiteboard on the screen?
Yes, sir, we can see that.
Right. Okay. At the beginning of maybe 19th century or during early days, what we have experienced in the market is something like this. This is the demand, and here is the supply. There is always over demand. So whatever you produce, this is the beginning of, let's say, 19th century and even until 1950s, 60s. This was the case with even in the developed market until this industrial revolution and technology development. This was the scenario. You have more demand in the market, but less supply. So therefore, whatever you produce was very easy to be sold. But then today, if you take, not today, even from 1970s, 60s, what we see in most of the market is very different from this scenario. What we now see in the market is something like this. Supply in demand. Proportionately, it may not be the same, but I just want to give you sort of a rough idea as to how this happened. Now, today, if you take any product category, you have many options to choose from. Let's say, mobile phones or maybe toothpaste or any product. Forget about diesel, petrol, gas. That's a very unique situation that occurred recently. That's what happened here. If you take restricted market conditions we experience in the Sri Lankan context today, we have heavy demand and less supply. So therefore, whatever you find in the market, you buy. That's why even some gas cylinders burst. You even tend to buy low quality ones. But in a properly developed market where goods and services are freely flowing, in a normal market, what we call normal market, the condition is something like this. There is oversupply and less demand. In this type of a market, if you're operating, what you need to do as strategists, as marketers, you need to make sure that you attract this demand. You need to make sure that your brand is chosen by the consumers. because here is the organizational sector, here is the consumer sector. Now, if you want to take this demand in the market, the only rationale, the only reason behind this is that you as a marketer, you as an organization should be able to give something better than your competitors. You need to be well ahead of your competitors in terms of satisfying your customers. In order to satisfy your customers, in order to give something unique, something special, something extra to your customers, what is the secret? You should be able to understand exactly what they want. Exactly what they want. What is in their mind? What is in their mind? What do they want? Why do they buy what they buy? The more you understand, the more deeply you understand, the better solutions you can come up with. That is why we had to have strong theoretical understanding as to how we can dig deeper and deeper into consumer behavior. Why do consumers behave the way they do? This is very, very difficult question to answer. If I ask you, why would you want to do an MBA? You may have a reason. You may say something. But is that the only reason? There are certain things, I'm sure you would agree with me, that there are certain reasons you can't even express properly. It's not because you are limited with your vocabulary. That's not the reason. There are certain things that we can't express properly in words. So to that extent, this reason behind what we do is complex to explain. So therefore, marketers try to look at this situation or scenario from various perspectives and try to have very, very deep meanings, understandings, meanings as to why people do things, meanings behind their actions to the maximum level possible so that they can do something better than what others do. Just take a simple example like Manchi, what is this? Podi badaginnata solution? Podi badaginnata visanduma? Who thought, a cream cracker would come up with something like this? Nobody thought. But it's, very simple, but very sharp twist they have added. It was kind of a burning issue people had. But you never thought, a biscuit can do this wonder. That's a very different, game. There is this practice introduced by world famous coffee brand Starbucks. They introduce a pricing concept called paid forward. Paid forward is a famous English phrase. There is a movie also, Paid Forward. I think same principle they have adopted in their marketing practice. What they have done is they have introduced a new pricing system. New payment, actually, not a pricing system, new payment method. What it does is, if I go to buy my coffee has already been paid by the customer who has visited the outlet before. A stranger, someone I do not know. But this person has already paid for my coffee. And I get to pay for the person who comes after me. So this was kind of an experiment they did, but that became a very successful program because what they have realized through this experiment, they have realized that there is a tendency to pay little extra if you have to Make it if you have to, pay for someone else, because even if you pay, let's say $2 for a cup of coffee for yourself, you might not want to do the same thing for somebody else because it might look bad on you. So you might pay maybe $250 or $3 just to give, even if the other person is a stranger, still, you might want to give good impression that you're paying for somebody else and you're more caring for people, you're happy to donate, and that feeling is what the company has capitalized on. Very interesting, very successful. And there is this other place called Lentils. If you look up this brand online, it's a social enterprise, not kind of a very commercial type of business. Part of their money goes to CSR projects and some of the environmental projects they do. There's a Sri Lankan also involved in this business called Lentils. I think they have a couple of restaurants in Australia and some other parts of the world also. What they do is pay as you go. It's again a different concept. Pay as you go. What it means is that usually when you go to a restaurant, you have what you usually get is you get a menu with the price. But what they say is you can buy whatever you want. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. 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 Ah, yes. Yeah. 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 That's right. There's a name for it. I can't remember. Hanging coffee or something. Yes, I saw it somewhere. Yes, hanging coffee. And people come and ask, have you got hanging coffee? That's a beautiful concept. Even if I don't buy a hanging coffee, I get a very pleasant feeling. I get a very sort of loyal feeling that they are doing this CSR work. Maybe at the cost of their customer, they don't do anything, but still we feel very happy about it. And that good impression sort of makes us loyal to that particular organization brand. Like, if you don't mind walking past few other coffee shops to buy one from that particular shop because you feel that they are doing something good for the society. So those are very tiny points but very touchy, very very well aligned with the consumer mindset. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes. And then this lentils, how it works is you eat as much as you like. You eat whatever things they have on the menu, and then as you leave the place, you can go to the cashier and pay what you thought the food was worth. If you think it was worth $20, you would pay 20. If you think it was maybe 50, you would pay 50 for what you have eaten. Now the point is that when the customer gives when the customer is given the freedom, when the customer feels that they're trusted, they're respected, they have the knowledge and know how to decide on how much they should pay. General tendency research clearly shows that they pay what the food usually seem to be worth. If you think it's worth 20, you tend to pay maybe 22 or 25 because you're given the freedom. We like the freedom. We like the fact that we are respected. We like the fact that we are trusted. We like the fact that our knowledge, our ability to make a judgment is sort of valued. And that gives them sort of maybe in a bit of a mind comfort to pay a little extra. So those are some, tiny things. They are not, big, rocket science type of things, but still they work. Now, for these things to work, we need to understand how actually consumers' mind work. Right. Now, with all that, I'm going to show you another video. Is that okay?
Yes, sure, sir.
Hmm. මම කියපු වෙලාවේ මොන හරි නොතේරෙන දේවල් තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න මගෙන්. You can ask any questions anytime. Feel free to interrupt at any point because you might not see me again until hopefully end of this, maybe for one or more topics, but this topic will not be covered again, so you can ask me questions. Interesting video I'm going to show you now. You need to again look at this and tell me what is the target audience and what made you think so.
So, in the evening,
The video that was played was the first video. Yes. What do you think is the target audience? Why do you think? Why do you think this? Huh? Sorry, you say it again. Driving. Very good. Very good. This. So, what's the kind of key message they're going to give? How do they sort of? It's the sort of young male drivers they are targeting here, and what's the key message they're giving? Yes. Even if you speed up, nobody will think high of you. People will think less of you. Very good. This was a very, very successful social media campaign that ran, I think, around 2020 in Australia. This is considered to be one of the very, very successful campaigns. The reason why this was considered to be successful is that they have done a lot of research. Now, behind this particular campaign, social marketing campaign, they have a lot of research studies they have conducted in order to identify how to convince these young male drivers. as you very correctly said, people who have obtained their license immediately after obtaining their license, maybe with their first vehicle, they think that driving fast is okay, and that driving fast is the way to impress others, particularly the opposite sex. So therefore, the record shows that the accidents caused by this particular category of drivers were much more higher than the other accidents. So number of accidents caused by this category was much more higher. So they wanted to address this particular group with a separate message. But what works for this message, they were not very sure of. So they did a lot of research. And finally, they realized that it is the ego, guilt, ego is that needs to be touched. So if it comes from the very group that they want to have an impression on, they want to impress, that might work. If they want to impress the sort of opposite sex, if the message comes from the same group, that would work. That is why, they don't say anything. They don't, express any words, nothing. They don't show numbers. They don't make any appeal like, your families would suffer, you will get killed. Nothing. You don't want to kill yourself. Nothing like that, because these messages won't work for this particular group. So it's the ego. It's the sort of message coming from the people they want to have an impression, good impression. So this worked, and after this particular campaign was run for, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years, they did a couple of other research to see what happened with the accidents. Number has seriously dropped. Even the sort of language they use, body language, this finger pointing this. Those of you who know what exactly it means, know how powerful that is. Those of you who do not know, maybe can look up online or ask a friend. They will tell you what that symbolically means. So that's very powerful. That's very powerful. No, other numbers or anything like that. So again, it might look like a very tiny thing they do, but the thing is identifying what really works. What exactly these people would understand, what can make an appeal to the target audience is what we need to understand. So therefore, we need to basically go through a process or a kind of theoretical perspective to see how we can deeply understand our consumers. So with that broad idea in mind, I'm going to sort of get you to look at some of the theoretical aspects now. Let me know if when it becomes boring, I'll give you the break. What time do you usually get the break?
It's around 10 o'clock we are getting.
For how long?
Sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes.
What do you prefer? ඒකට උත්තර දෙන්න බෑ. ඒකට ඔයගොල්ලෝ හිතන මම ඔයගොල්ලෝ ජජ් කරනවා. කමන්නේ මම උත්තරේ. Thank you. Now let's get a body breaks on in between. If you need short breaks, I'm happy to give. Right. So as I said already, what we do in this particular discussion, trying to sort of understand answers to these questions. What consumers buy, who buys, how, when, where, and most importantly, that's the word. Most importantly, why? It is very hard. So if you can briefly answer these questions, you think you can have a relatively good understanding about your consumers. But what do you mean by consumers here? Individuals and households. Both, not only individual consumption, household consumption. Now, petrol these days is a household product. Gas cylinders, household product. Who buy acquire goods and services for personal consumption. That's the key idea behind, individual consumers. Organizational consumers are different. Now, household, the meaning of household is kutumbaya. අපේ ඇමති කෙනෙක් හිටිය ඉස්සරම term kutumbaya කියලා පාවිච්චි කරන kutumbaya. Household is not necessarily a family. Household can be a family or a group of people living in one place. Living together is also a household. Group of people sharing a house is also a household consumption. People who live in maybe temporary arrangements like maybe workstations, they are also households. That is also a household because they are making sort of collective joint consumption decision making, how much to buy, what not to buy, when to buy. All these decisions they make as a group. Students who are staying close to the university or maybe on university hostels make collective decisions because they share one apartment or one house together. They're making some consumption decisions, but for the end consumption. So therefore, we study consumption decisions of all these types: individual, groups, households, families. So the central question is, how do consumers respond to various marketing stimuli the marketing organizations might use? On a pretty theoretical term, right? So we as marketers, I'm going to assume that you all are going to be marketers. So at least for now, we are the head of a marketer to understand these concepts. Maybe you're coming from accounting background, finance, IT, operations, engineering. That's fine. At some point in life, you'll have to be a marketer. So therefore, we are the marketer's hat and we are the organizational head now, for now, because we are from organizations looking at consumers for the first part of the discussion. So our question is to answer this. How do consumers respond to various marketing stimuli? What do we mean by marketing stimuli? Stimuli kila kena uttejaka. How do consumers respond to different types of stimuli created or generated by marketers? Stimuli is uttejakayan. Stimulus, LUS, is the singular word that is called uttejakaya. Make it I now. Right. Now,
Excuse me, sir, you are muted.
he was just applying. He was just applying. What I wanted you to sort of experience is that I created a stimuli for which you responded in two ways. The stimuli I created was I purposefully muted myself. When I'm muted, you didn't hear anything. So that me muting myself is the stimulus. That was the stimulus. එකතම උත්තේජකය. උත්තේජකයට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ටක් ගාලා මොකද්ද කරේ? ප්‍රතිචාර දක්වනවා. You responded. Someone texted me and to unmuted and sort of told that I can't be you can't hear me. That is the response. This is a very, very basic human thing we all do. We in our life, what we basically do is we keep responding to different types of stimuli. When I'm talking, when I'm unmuted and talking, you listen to me. That's the response. When I'm muted, you let me know that I'm muted. You can't hear me. That's a response. If a mosquito is biting you, you might hit as if somebody is going to kill you. That's a response. If you walk past a bakery, these days you might not want to look at it because, a loaf of bread is, how much is one bread now?
115, sir.
115. Some of us don't want to look at it anymore. You just walk fast as if you didn't see anything. But some of us can't still, stop looking at it because there's a beautiful aroma coming. So you might want to maybe try a roast pang or something. You might go there and buy one. You might have an intention to buy two, but then when you go there and ask the price, you think, okay, give me one. I'll share this with my partner. Today I'm not going to buy. Whatever it is, it's a response. The response is generated in relation to the stimuli we create. So this is the basic idea of understanding consumer. We as marketers create a lot of stimuli. In other words, marketing strategies. And then consumers do respond to these stimuli. Basically, that's it. Understanding consumer behavior starts with this basic theoretical principle, stimulus response. We as marketers create stimuli expecting certain type, certain level of stimuli from the consumers. We are not just creating any type of stimuli. We are creating set of stimuli which we think are powerful enough to get our target consumers to respond. Strategies, we don't create strategies haphazardly, thinking if it works. No, that's not the way to go. You need to have very thorough understanding about consumers so that you can create the set of stimuli. There are stimuli which are created by marketers. There are some other stimuli as well. All stimuli in marketing are not created by marketers only. There are some other stimuli also. Now, for example, you can see me drinking water. Why? The environment is such that, it makes us feel dry and, we need to have something to drink, something to quench our thirst. And I keep talking also. It's a marketer created stimuli. Maybe the natural environment, if you are walking in the sun for too long, if you're working maybe in an open space, you need to drink water. That stimuli is a natural stimuli. Or this is March, you get maybe bonus or something. If you're lucky this time, you might get a bonus or something which makes you buy something. That's again not a marketer created stimuli, but that's a job related benefit you get, which you might use for some consumption. So stimuli are always not created, all of them are not created by marketers, but also created by maybe natural environment or economic environment or political environment or whatever. And then you respond. So responses, as you know, can be the product you choose, the brand, the dealer, which reseller you're going to buy from, purchase timing, purchase frequency, amount. These are the responses. There can be many. Just to give you a few, these are the responses. In order to elicit these responses, marketers should be able to design the right set of stimuli. Some marketing strategies now you can understand why they don't seem to work. Some organizations fail. Some marketing strategies seem to have obvious errors simply because there can be something wrong with the stimuli, which kind of discourages the consumer. Some of you might remember that there was a brand of jam that was introduced long time ago. The name was Clementi Jars. Can anyone remember? Clementi Jars brand. Clementi Jars fail වෙන්න එක හේතුවක් තමයි එකම හේතුව තමයි මේ නම කියන්න බැරි කම. Stimuli, the brand was a failure. Do you think, people in rural areas, people who are not that comfortable to sort of pronounce English words as brands, particularly a word like Clementi Jars, it didn't work. For the first time, you can ask Mudalali, can you give me this new jam? Second time also you can do that. Third time, maybe not after that. You need to be able to pronounce it, say it clearly. It's not as easy as, DSI or ANPA or BATA or, MD jam or something like that. It's not easy. So it was obviously an error with the stimuli you have created. And there was this incident which I remember. One day I went to one of the DSI showrooms in Maharagam. This is a true example. And next to their shoe racks, there was a rack with full of jams. That was the time DSI as a company acquired KVC brand, Kalani Valley Confectionaries brand. KVC jam was acquired by DSI. And since they have an island-wide distribution network of shoes, they thought they can easily sell jam in the shoe outlets. But it was a fundamental error with the distribution strategy. Here, the place strategy. Fundamental error. Who would want to buy a bottle of jam when their intention is to go buy, a pair of shoes? And also there's, very bad order coming from shoe outlets. It's a very different environment. Setting atmosphere is very different. It's different from, buying shoes from Apiku and buying jam. It's a department store. But only shoe store, having 1 or 2 racks of jams, do you think it would work? Yes, Hassler. Yes, go ahead. It didn't work. Now you can't see, jam with DSI shoes. I think they removed it very, very soon after they launched it. That's right. That would have been a very, very effective extension. That goes with the shoes, not the jam. Some of you may have seen when you go to Damro furniture shops, they sell something similar to that. Did anyone notice some tea? How do you think about that? How do you think about that combination?
That also will not work out, sir.
That's right. That was my impression too. Much better than jam and shoes. But I don't know. I have no evidence. I have no idea about the successful story. In my mind, I was thinking this might not work. But I have seen people buying. People are quite curious. Why? Because it's not in their sort of comfort zone. If you keep promoting it, if you keep selling it for some time, it might work. Like, for example, now if you take an IKEA outlet, IKEA has everything. Even though it's like a furniture shop, it has more domestic items, from kitchen to a toilet to anything they have. And also within the outlets they have food courts also. So in a place like this, you might be able to sell. But I think, suddenly, just because Damro has acquired this tea brand, ඒගොල්ලෝ ගත්තනේ අර තේ ස්ටේට් එකක උගලට දන්නවද? ඒ අර නුවරඑළියට යනකොට තියෙන ගම්පල පැත්තේ. I can't remember that tea factory name. Can someone remember? When you No, not nice. No, something else. When you go to Nuwara from Dampula side. Now
Lul Kelly. Lul Kelly, no?
What is it? Some Kelly. මොකක් හරි කැලයක් තමයි මට මතක නැහැ.
Lul Kelly.
Lul Kellyද? අන්න හරි. මම ඒකෙන් තව example එකක් ඔයගලන්ට කියලා දෙන්නම්. මෙන්න මේ කෙනෙක් කියන හොඳ example එකක්. Now Apico is selling sticks, dara with kitchen items. That's a good combination. Very wise move, I think. Now this Damro one, it's too early to comment on it, but it doesn't work because theoretically it might not, because furniture is always going as high involvement product, whereas tea is low involvement product, FMCG category. People make quick purchases and they have loyal brands. But if people get to know that Damro has acquired this brand and now it goes with Damro, there is a possibility. But it's not like keeping a table next to their furniture. It has to be positioned properly, placed. Labukele estate. Somebody says Labukele. Rajapaksha, thank you. Labukele. Kavinda, thank you. Right. Then on බලන්න ලබුකැල ස්ටේට් එකට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගියා නම්, after it was acquired by Damro, did anyone visit the place? I did only once, 2-3 years ago. If you have been there before and after this refurbishment, you would see hell of a lot of differences there. You can feel that it looks very different. The difference is that the place now looks more like a furniture shop. It has this Damro furniture kind of orientation, not like a tea shop. Now, if you go to real tea shops, where you have the tea culture. I'm not talking about Sri Lankan domestic drinking type of tea culture. A proper tea culture, a coffee culture that you see in maybe England or some other European countries. It's very cozy, very sort of you have very different feeling. The outlet is set up in a way that people have this relaxed environment where they can enjoy a cup of coffee. Now, Damro, this Labukele refurbishment has made it to be more like a reception hall, very sort of elegant with lighting, and it's more like a function hall. It doesn't have the original look it had. I had the chance to go there after it was refurbished with a group of foreigners who happened to be there before the refurbishment. I didn't know about this place. They were telling me that we need to go there, we need to go this place, we need to go to this place. They kept on telling us that there is this beautiful tea shop next to a tea factory, and they loved it before and they want to go. And they remember the place also. But when we get there, they didn't like it at all. They said this is not, I felt that it's not the same. And බලන්න stimuli එක වෙනස් කරපු ගමන් ප්‍රතිචාරය වෙනස් වුණා. You change the stimuli, suddenly you realize that the consumers respond. They would never come back. They would never recommend this to anyone else. They would never go back there. So therefore, when you change, the change has to be for a reason. Change has to be aligned with the minds of consumers who would come to that place. People who come to that sort of coffee shop are the ones who enjoy coffee as tea as a culture. There's a culture built around tea. There's a culture built around coffee. Now, if you take cricket in Sri Lanka, it's not just a sport, it's a culture. So, the cricket fans, if you want to attract to something, you need to be able to have this cricket culture embedded into it. It's like, this Ministry of Crab by Sangakkar and Mahela. When you go to the place, you don't get only crab. But why do you want to pay maybe more than 10,000 or 15,000 bucks for just a dish of crab? It's not only that. People who come there are the people who would love to enjoy and have the experience of cricket culture. That's what they are marking. That's the stimuli you need to create. So for that to happen, we need to be able to understand something else. That is this part. Right? So we know that in order to elicit the desired response from the consumers, you have to create the right set of strategies. Now, for that to happen, we need to know exactly what happens in consumer's mind. Who is this consumer? Who is this consumer? What does he or she do? Consumer කිව්වහම උඹ කයි හිතන් ඉන්නවා he කියලා. ඒක වැරදි. That's a very wrong understanding. There's a misunderstanding. There's a very wrong use of the word customer also. Everyone uses customer with a very male dominance. Like, the moment you say customer, the next word is he. That's very wrong. Very sexually offensive use of the word customer can be he or she, consumer can be he or she. So they are gender neutral words. Just for your knowledge, I'm sharing this. අපි බොහොම වැරදි විදිහට ඔක පාවිච්චි කරනවා. කස්ටමර් කිව්ව ගමන් he can. මාකටර් කිව්ව ගමන් he can. මාකටර් කියන එක මේ he නෙමෙයි, it's a gender neutral word. If you look at marketing books written maybe 2-3 decades ago, even they have used he. දැන් ඔනේ කතන්දරේ නෙමෙයි මෙතෙන්ට එනවා. So how does this happen? How do we respond? In this process, in this sort of understanding this, we call buyer's black box. There's something happening in our mind which we can't see. That is why we call it black box, like the black box of the plane. You can't see exactly what's there. So therefore, because we can't understand what exactly happening in consumer's mind, we look at consumer's action. Right? By observing actions, we make a conclusion, we make a judgment, we try to understand how exactly consumers think. So that's what we are going to do now, right? So this part, I'm sure you are clear. And how this happens, we are going to understand more deeply. So in exploring buyer's black box, there are two parts we need to explore. First one, buyer decision process. What it simply means is that every buying decision making, every buying we go through a process. That is what we call buyer decision making process. And as we go through this process, we are influenced by certain characteristic of us. Certain characteristic of us influence our buying decision process. Then මෙතනින් පස්සේ හරිම ලේසි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවා. Now, from this point onwards, what I'm going to be talking about is very easy to understand. So let's take 1 or 2 minutes and think about what I said so far and ask questions. Doubts, any doubts or questions, any examples you think but you could not relate to this, you can ask me now. I'm going to elaborate these two from now onwards. I think yes, something like patas sounds good. It kind of appeals. Yeah, easily pronounced. දැන් පටාස් කියලා ගහපුවාම නිකන් දැන් අපි දන්නවනේ මధుරයකට පටාස් ගාලා ගැහුවොත් මధుරව මැරෙනවා. එතකොට නිකන් පටාස් කියන එක අපිට පොඩි නිකන් negative connotation. Yes, and also easy to pronounce. So this stimuli would work. Then bread talk brand එකක් ගන්නකො bread talk. It's an international brand. It still works. Even with the Sri Lankan market, the market they're targeting, it works. Brand like Nine Hearts, it works. What is Pampa? Yes.
සාමාන්‍ය චුම්බන්නේ
වෙන්නේ නැති. ඒවා හොඳයි. හොඳ ඒවා දැන් එතන ස්ටිමුලි කියලා ගත්තාම brand, logo, display arrangements, everything. And packing, everything works. Then ගත්තොත් එහෙම international supermarket. There's an international supermarket called ALDI, which is not operating in Sri Lanka. Now LD, they don't give bags. They don't give any plastic bags to customers. They let their empty cardboard box to be used, or they maybe give. They let people to carry their maybe bags to the outlet, but they don't give. But not giving a plastic bag is also a stimuli. They are trying to give the impression that they are very, very environmentally friendly. We are caring for you. We're caring for your environment. We're caring for the world we live in. So therefore, we let's make a collective effort. You bring your own bag, or we will give you cardboard box to pack your stuff. But let's together not to make the environmental polluted. That is very powerful, stimuli. Involving consumers also in their process of being environmentally friendly, which I think works. Because when people talk about LD, they talk about this concept. Yes, they do. Even in Apico, I think they have that. Our bad habit, so unfortunately, is that we forget to take the bag. Every time we go, we buy one, but we forget. But, there is a group of people who are very concerned about this. Right, any questions? Anything you'd like to ask? ඔගොල්ලෝ chat කරත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. If you don't want to unmute yourself and talk because you're not very sure that if your dog barks when you unmute, or maybe your child is screaming, you can chat. You can use the chat box. I don't mind, whether you have background noise or something like that. My background is so noisy. You will hear maybe few plastic and rubbish collectors coming, and then a lot of other noises you will hear. Today is much better, but can't help. Right, okay. So when you're exploring the buyer's black box, let's look at buyer decision-making process first. Is it example of Wall's ice cream failure? ඒකේ Wall's එක මට මතක නෑ ඇත්තම failure එක මොකද්ද? Can somebody remember why Wall's ice cream failed? Was it the taste or the price?
So basically, it was the usually people more familiar with that ice cream basket, small basket, not that
package they use.
Yes, because of the method of product, it was failed, as I know.
Okay, maybe yes. I knew the reason, but I don't remember it anymore. So if the problem was with the package, that's again wrong stimuli designing, because you don't, they may have not sort of touched the consumer's, pulse in terms of what they really like, what they have, what they're comfortable to handle.
Yes, with the advertisement, all the advantages taken by the Cargills.
Right. Okay. See how this basic theory works in practice. Thank you, Ramesh, for sharing that. All right. So let's go to the first part, which is by decision-making process. Here it is, by decision-making process. Some of you may have already learned this if you have had marketing unit for your first degree of whatever professional course you did. This process you may have studied. So I'm going to be talking about this briefly for the benefit of everyone. The ones who learned this before, you might refresh your memory, or you might look at it slightly different from how you have already learned it. And for others, it's new learning. Please do feel free to ask me questions, or if you're not sure of anything, please let me know. What this theory simply says is that people go through a 5-step process when they buy products and services. That's the general idea. You might have some different opinions as we go through. No, this doesn't work. As you said, it is not the case. So while I'm talking about these things, you can reflect on your own consumption decisions you made, buying decisions you made. Did I do that? Was that true with my product I purchased yesterday? Was this true with the rice and salt I bought yesterday? Or was this true with the vehicle I'm trying to purchase? Or was that true with the MBA I am doing now? So you can relate this to your own life, because marketing, on the other hand, is experienced by us as consumers. දැන් අපි වෙනස තියෙන්නේ මේ මාකටිං ගැන ගන්නේ අපි කන්සියුමර්ස්ලා විදිහට එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් කරන එක organizational point of view. You study marketing in this subject from an organizational point of view, but the experience of marketing we already have because we are consumers. So what we have experienced as consumers, we are now looking at from an organizational point of view. That's the only difference between our experience and what we learn in this subject, not only in this topic, entire subject, right? So consumers, if they go through 5-step process, it starts with need recognition. The word need recognition does not mean that marketers recognizing consumer needs. That's not what this means. This is about the consumer identifying their own needs. The consumer being conscious about his or her lacking maybe satisfaction. They are deprived of something. So consumer being aware of their own need is what we mean by need recognition. So for us, any buying decision, any consumption decision we make, therefore starts with us recognizing the need. I have to be aware of my own need. That is what need recognition means. How do we recognize the need? It might be internal, it might be external. Due to some external things, I might recognize the need, or due to some internal things, I might recognize the need. As I said before, I might sip some water, because as I keep talking, I get dry mouth continuously. And also because of the dry weather, I might get dry mouth very often. So therefore, that gives me the message that I'm experiencing dry mouth here. So therefore, quench your thirst and have a sip of water. See how the need recognition went into the consumption? So then without need recognizing, no consumption would occur. Need recognition. So externally, as I said before, if you walk past a bakery, you get this aroma. That's an external stimuli. Or you might see beautifully arranged racks, warm racks. Maybe you see a sort of you see nicely arranged one, or you hear this sort of sound, you feel the smell, and that sort of makes you aroused. So therefore, we call it need arousal. Either marketers arouse consumer needs, or either consumers get need arousal by themselves due to internal things, or maybe some external things. If you have to walk in the sun for for so long, maybe you feel like you need an umbrella. That's an external thing. So need has to be recognized. This is where consumer motivation even comes. Without motivation, this may not happen. But the point is this. You know that need has to be recognized, need has to emerge, need has to be aroused. If it's not, because some needs are dormant. Samahara need nikam matuwenne. Then insurance it doesn't just occur as if we feel hungry. No, it doesn't just occur. It has to be aroused. So marketers have a bigger role to play with the needs that are dormant by nature. But there are certain needs which are biologically sort of emerging. Every time you eat something, you feel happy, and then in a few hours' time, you need something to drink, and then in another few hours' time, you need gain a heavy meal. Likewise, your body reminds you of your biological whatever construction would remind you of certain things. But everything doesn't happen that way. Therefore, need has to be recognized. But the point is this: just because need is aroused, we will not buy something. We will not engage in the buying decision process. Simply arousing is not sufficient. Need should be aroused beyond its threshold level. Beyond its threshold level. What is threshold level? අපිට දරා ගන්න අමාරු මට්ටම. බඩගින්නක් දැනෙනවා, ඉවසගෙන ඉන්නවා, අතර තිබහක් දැනෙනවා, ඉවසගෙන ඉන්නවා. හැබැයි එක්තරා මට්ටමක් එනවා. You have to take an action. You have to act on it. So arousing the need beyond the threshold is the requirement. So in that case, marketers, why do we need to learn about all these things? In every step of the decision-making process, marketers have a role to play. So even with need recognition, marketers can sort of produce various stimuli so that consumers not only become aware of their need, they would go beyond their threshold level and take an action. Now, if you go to a restaurant, nicely arranged tables, menu card, the sounds you get with, making hoppers and kottu, these are all stimuli. And the beautiful aroma you get, these are all stimuli. Then අපි කියන්නේ අම්මෝ දැන් නම් බඩගින්න ඉන්න බෑ, සුවඳ දැනනකොට ඉන්න බෑ, මෙනු එක දැක්කම ඉන්න බෑ එහෙම කියලා කියන්නේ අපි. So need is sufficiently aroused. Need is sufficiently aroused. Your need would have been sufficiently aroused before by the time you started searching for MBA programs and their details and certain things, your need for having a higher qualification, a postgraduate qualification, doing something new, educating myself, those are the different types of needs. So your needs would have been sufficiently aroused. Now you tell me how your need was aroused to do an MBA or to study, more. Mono stimulated you. What motivated you? What stimulated you?
for the people who did MBA earlier and they
Very
are
good.
tourists.
Yes. Peer impression, peer pressure. People who have qualified themselves before, maybe your work colleagues, maybe your family members, maybe your batchmates of your previous study programs, they would have had a big impact. What else? Maybe some of the promotions like, billboards or hoardings or what you saw on Facebook, social media, little, pop-up advertisements would have made an impact. So these things would have had sort of a collective impact. It's not only peers, it's not only these pop-up advertisements, it's not only, your promotional schemes. They have had a sort of common, joint impact. With all that, you recognize the need, and the need recognition has come to that level that you need to make an action, and the action you immediately take is the second one: information search. Once you realize that you have a need for something, you then start looking for information can come from various sources, again, from personal sources, from marketing sources, from maybe public sources like newspaper advertisements, public information. Marketing information means advertisements or digital marketing campaigns, all the information shared by marketers. Personal sources like maybe family, friends, your colleagues, peers, personal information. Personal information seem to be more reliable than public and marketer created information. So you look for information. But how much information you need, how long you can spend in searching for information, and what sources you're going to rely on, all that depends on what? How much information we are to look for, which sources to rely on, how long you are going to spend information source, depends on what? Any guess?
On the stimuli and the gravity of the need?
Gravity of the need, very good. What do you mean by gravity? Give me an example. The point is very correct. Give me an example. That for this one we need less information, and for this one we need more information. දැන් අපි කතා කරපු examples වලින් නැත්නම් වෙන එකකින් හරි ගන්න. Deadlines. If you have a very close deadline, maybe time is tight, then you might not want more information. Okay, what else? How do you decide on the gravity of the decision? Very good. How much it affects your maybe image, if you like. How much it may have an impact on your budget, career plan. Very good. So these are the things, like, if it is an important decision. Importance means, high level of gravity, as you said. Maybe it's expensive one. Maybe it's an infrequent purchase. Maybe, one-off purchase, or maybe once in life purchase, like Canterbury Golf Club apartment. You're buying that sort of luxury apartment. It's not like, buying 1 kilo of sugar, salt, and dal. It's very different. It's very different. It's very unique. One-off buying, very expensive. You make a sort of long time investment in doing or making that decision. So therefore you need more information. සීනි ගන්න ගියාම ගෙවල් ගන්න ගියාමයි එක වගේම ඉන්නේ එහෙම කාට හරි හිතෙනවා නම් මම සීනි ගන්න විදිහට තමයි ගෙවල් ගන්න කියලා ලෙක්චර් එක ඉවරලා සයිකියාට්‍රික් කෙනෙක් හම්බෙන්න. ඉස්සරහට වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අර කාටුන් එකක් දාලා තිබ්බේ මේ ඔයගොල්ලන් දකින්න ඇති ඔය Facebook එකේ තිබ්බා කියලා මට කවුරු හරි කිව්වා මේ අර කවුරු හරි ජුවලරි එකක් ඇඳගෙන ඉන්නවා. හානේ ඇත්තක් නෑ හානේ පාන් වලින්මයි හදලා තියෙන්නේ ඔක්කොම කිව්වලු. ඒ නිසා පාන් ගන්නකොටත් ජුවලරි එකක් ගන්නවා වගේම වෙයි කියලා හිතෙනවා. Someone has made a very good sort of observation of my explanation so far. This person seemed to disagree with what I said. Okay, I'll come to your point. Can't see this person's name. 7788 number. Thank you for your observation. I'll come to your point. Right. So yes, how risky it is basically tells you how much information you need and how long you're going to spend. If it's a risky one, expensive decision, you need more information. If it's not, less information. With the information you search, you identify different alternatives. Therefore, the third stage comes where you evaluate the alternatives. You have different alternatives to evaluate from. දැන් අර හරියට නිකන් කසාදයක් බඳින්න ගියාම අර පත්‍රේ ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස්මන්ට් එකක් දානවානේ. පත්‍රේ මොනවද දාන්නේ ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස්මන්ට් එකක් දානකොට? රටේ රැකියාව ඇති බොදු ගොවි what else? දුසිරෙන්තෙන් තොර උගත් රූමත්. Yes. So this is the criteria. This is what you include in your criteria. Level of education, class, caste, maybe your look, your wealth. These are the criteria you would look at. එකක් දානවද? ඔව් නේ. ඒක දානවනේ. ඇජෙන්ඩ් එකක් දානවනේ.
සුළු වැරදි. සුළු වැරදි.
ඒක ඇවිල්ලා නිෂ් මාකට් එකක් ඒක. අපි කතා කරන්නේ ලොකු මාකට් ගැන. සුළු වර්ධකට සමාවති වගේ කියන්නේ ඒව නිෂ් මාකට්. Niche marketing is also part of target marketing, but yes. So that's why you look at the criteria. For every product you purchase, yes, somebody says features of the product, not the benefit. Yes, very good. In the criteria, you look at the features of the product, and then you set the criteria. And you keep this criteria in mind, and you tend to evaluate each alternative. You keep the criteria in mind and tend to evaluate each criteria. And based on each criterion, you make a judgment about each option available. And finally, the one that gives you a sort of overall higher value is the one you're going to choose. So if that is the case, we need to be able to understand exact need the consumer is looking for. Where do they get information? How do they get information? Evaluate alternatives. That's very easy. Example this is something I experienced. When I was traveling, I traveled to Japan for a conference some time ago. And there was sort of a young lecturer, 10-15 years younger than me. And the others, there were 5 of us. 4 of us were of my age. And this person was like end of 20s. And then we went to a restaurant to have dinner. And one of us wanted a glass of warm water. And we asked for a glass of warm water. They couldn't understand. We made every possible way we knew. We could think about, like, we showed a glass and then we showed water in it. And then we said warm water, hot water, everything we said. Once we got a glass of chilled water, glass of, green tea, and they bought us everything. They understood, but not glass of warm water. And we were like thinking of how do we get this message across? And this, it never occurred to us, but this person, the one in 20s, took his phone and use the Google Translate. It's a very simple thing. And then translated the glass of warm water into Japanese and showed it to the person. And he was laughing. And immediately we got the glass of water, warm water. That was so easy. But what I'm telling is that when we try to understand the consumers, we usually use what we call self-reference criteria in interpreting about our consumers. That's our way of looking at things, our way of understanding. මම හිතනවා මෙහෙම තමයි consumers මේක කරන්න කියලා අපි ඒක හින්දා ඇත්ත consumer ගැන හිතන්නේ. No. Different generations have different habits. Different consumers have different patterns. People who grew up in different cultures have different habits. Without looking at the consumer from my perspective, from my own view, we have to have very open mind. We have to have very sort of clear mind to see what exactly they prefer, how exactly they do things. Now, Googling things is not of something of my age. Now, of course, we do for maps and things like that, but still, we still tend to ask people around. We don't still rely on Google Maps. නමුත් දැන් Google කියන එක මේ verb එකක් විදිහට ඉංග්‍රීසි වලටත් එක තියලානේ. Even English language dictionary now we uses the word Google because we simply say, why don't you Google it and see? To that extent, information search has gone online. But people of my generation or generation before me would still look for map, or maybe would still call somebody and ask, or maybe talk to somebody to get information. But people of younger generation, maybe some of you as well, for everything you do blogs. You do read blogs, you do read online reviews, you do read maybe Facebook comments and things like that, which never occurs to me or people of my generation. So information search, the source is very different. Unless we are open to see what has really happened and how people do these things, we are not able to come up with the right set of marketing strategies. ඒ හින්දා මේ අනර්කලීට කියලා ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස්මන්ට් එකක් කරගෙන වැඩක් නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඊට වැඩිය එන්න පුළුවන් සමහර වෙලාවට හොඳ බ්ලොගින් එකක් එන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් Instagram එක followers එන්න පුළුවන්. Instagram is something that they never touches people like me. I mean, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not sharing anything, but you understand how powerful influencer marketing these days. People know these are sponsored advertisements, these are non-sponsored advertisements, what to look for, who to sort of connect to, and where to get information from, what they read and what they should not read, they know. So therefore, understand the theory behind this is, the application behind this theory is, we know people look for information, that's it. No, that's not the case. You need to dig deep and see where these people get information. Why this source? Why not the other source? What seems to be more reliable to this generation? What seems to be more appealing? So these are the decisions you need to make very sharply. And you make the evaluation of alternatives and make the final decision, final purchase. In the final purchase, what we are studying is how people make actual decisions. දැන් අර තියෙන්නේ බොදු ගොවි ඔක්කොම කරලා alternatives evaluate කරලා hotels එකත් book කරලා last minute rush කරන්න පුළුවන්. Things like that can happen. Some of you may have experienced that also. That's very typical of human mind. We go through a rigorous evaluation process and think that this is the model I'm going to buy. But when you go to the outlet, the supermarket or the retail outlet or the shopping mall, wherever you go, maybe if it's an online purchase, you make the final choice, but very last minute you change your decision. Why would you make your mind very last minute? Any suggestion, any idea? Having even decided on what to buy.
Sometimes in the end, we may receive some rich information.
Very good. Last minute, you might receive some rich information, or you might see something else, like maybe another brand is on sale, a discount. Or what else?
what we actually see is different from what we expected to see.
That doubt comes maybe partly at this stage and mostly in the next stage. Very good point. So your expectations would be different, or maybe salesperson take you through a sort of a different story. Finally, they might create some doubts in your mind because the retail atmosphere matters. Atmosphere matters. In some cases, maybe the lighting, maybe the sounds, maybe the environment, the ambience, they all matter, and final decision would change. Or maybe things like a salesperson rushing through to the decision. There's a place, there's a slow movement of consume. Maybe salesperson is in a rush to finish your deal and get to another. So that might irritate you. That might sort of give you the impression that this person is trying to sell this to me somehow. So I'm not going to be letting this person to sort of cheat me. Suddenly you change your mind. So even the salesperson's wrong approach, unprofessional approach, would finish the deal, and you might shift to something else. So last minute changes can happen due to various reasons: retail environment, salesperson's approach, or you might find something else, or as you may say, your expectations would have changed. So there are many things. Just because the person says that I'm going to buy this and make an advance doesn't mean that the same thing will be purchased in the end. Somebody says in supermarkets we can select items, but in normal shops we can't. Very good. Thank you for bringing this brilliant idea. That is exactly why this conventional retailing system in our country and is replaced by the supermarkets. The very reason why supermarkets are sort of developing, they are growing, and conventional retailers are dying because they have not understood the simplest, the basic mindset of consumers. Consumers need to have the right of choice, right to choose what they want. Right to choose is a consumer right. That is violated. දැන් ඔයගලන්ට මතක නම් අර ඉස්සර මෙන්න මෙහෙම කඩවල් තිබ්බා මතකද දන්නේ බලන්නකෝ තාමත් ඔය ඈත ගම් වලට එහෙම ගියපුවාම සමහර පැති වලට ගියපුවාම තියෙනවා මෙන්න මෙහෙම තියෙන කඩේ දැන් කොවිඩ් හින්දා තියෙනවා කොහොම දැල් ගහපු කඩේ මතකද This is the front. Now here you have the මුදලාලි inside. කොහොම අත් දෙකක් තියාගෙන මුදලාලි ඉන්න කවුන්ටර් එකේ. එතන කස්ටමර් ගිහිල්ලා මෙතනින් ඉන්නවා. දැන් මේ context එකයි modern supermarket එකයි compare කරන්නකො. Compare this context with the modern supermarket. Maybe they have 24/7 surveillance cameras and security, but you park the vehicle or you walk into the supermarket and you can spend as long as you want and buy stuff and select, read, and then sales staff would support you whenever you need. And here in this model, in this retail outlet, what is missing is the simple convenience of choosing. Consumers' right of choosing, right of selecting. When that is not protected or when that is not practiced, as I said before, people would go to the places where they have a valid reason to buy. The මෙතන මම කිව්වා දැන් සුපර් මාකට්ස් ගත්තොත් එහෙම මේ වලට නොගිහිල්ලා රිටේල් වලට මේ වලට එන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට අවශ්‍යතාවය තියෙනවා. The consumer need is well protected, well satisfied. Convenience, choosing, selecting whatever they want. Now here, when you ask for maybe one soap and you get it, and then if you say to Mudalali that Mudalali, this is not what I want, can I please get the other one? Mudalali will have very grumpy mood. But in this one, no one will have that bad atmosphere experience. That is why even conventional retailers are gradually shifting to be like retail shopping where convenience and right to choose is well practiced. That's what understanding consumer means. What is missing in our equation? දැන් මේ සමහරලාට මේ වගේ කඩවල වලට ගියපුවාම උගලන්ට පේනවා පූසා පැනලා කරවල කනවා බල්ලා පැනලා සීනි කනවා ඊළඟට මැස්සෝ එනවා. So where is the cleanliness? Where is the sort of respect for consumers? So that's what it means. Good point. Thank you for bringing this. Right, okay, we have done our first part. I'll get to the last point after the break. And now it's 10:15. Please come back around. Ravinda, thank you for your lovely comment. Come back around, let's say 10:46 if you like. Take 20 minutes. If someone needs a little more, that's fine. Physically and mentally back into the session. I give you extra 4 minutes, I think. We had 76 before the class, before the break, and now it has come down to 59. That's fine. Right. Okay. So we were talking about biomedicine process, and we know that people go through initially need recognition. Once the need is recognized, they would then look for relevant information. As a result of the information, they get to know various alternatives. From various alternatives, they sort of set an evaluative criteria. And having gone through the evaluative criteria with each brand or model or option, they would then finally decide the purchase. But even in the final purchase decision, your decision can change. Your decision can change. That's what we were talking about. Or you might go ahead with what you have decided upon at the stage 3 evaluation of alternative, or you may change. Both can happen. So marketers have to be very, very mindful of this. Very carefully you have to handle the purchasing stage. And then what comes at the end is post-purchase evaluation. Post-purchase evaluation has post-consumption and evaluation, because once you purchase, you then involved in the consumption and evaluation. That is where what one of your colleagues said happens. In the post-purchase evaluation, what we tend to do is we tend to come to sort of a conclusion. We tend to make a judgment as to what we did was right or wrong. Because there is always a doubt. There is always a doubt as to whether what we have done, what we have purchased, what I bought was the right thing. Or was there something better? Did I miss the best option? අර දකුණේ බොදු ගොවි ඔක්කොම කියලා ඊට පස්සේ එහෙම කරලත් අන්තිමට එන්න පුළුවන් ඔය ස්ටේජ් එකට. You might always feel, always you have, even at the purchase, consumption, after even consumption, you might feel like, I have not made the right decision. That is that uncertainty. That unsure feeling is called post-purchase dissonance. Post-purchase dissonance. Post-purchase dissonance means we experience this uncertain, negative, sort of doubtful mind after the purchase and consumption, which is quite normal. It's normal. Even though it's normal, marketers need to bear this in mind very carefully. Why? How people go through this dealing with the post-purchase dissonance is what makes them either come back to your business or select another brand. If I feel, because in the post-purchase dissonance and in the post-purchase evaluation stage, what we tend to do is, we tend to evaluate the actual performance of the product with the expectation I have in my mind. I had certain expectations with the product I purchased, and then I compare that with the actual performance. If the performance matches with the expectation, that's fine. If the performance do not match with the expectations and expectations are still higher and what you got is what you not expected, then of course it's a problem. People then would sort of think about it seriously, they will feel bad and they would look for some alternatives. So therefore, there has to be some sort of, post-purchase support, post-purchase assistance coming from the organization. That is where customer feedback system would come into play, customer, call centers, customer, support services, installation, and customer assistance, customer advisors, consulting. All these things should be in place. Sometimes even reinforce advertisements so that consumers would feel secure. Consumers would feel sort of confident about what they did. This wasn't the case until recent times in many sectors, though. You would agree with me that even in hospital sector, hotel sector, until very, very recent times, we did not have emails received asking how we felt. Now, of course, even during the session, you get this feedback service. I was attending a workshop at Pegasus Reef 16th and 14th, 15th and 16th. That is Tuesday and Wednesday this week. And while I was in the workshop, I had an email from the management, dear Dushan, how was your stay? That was the kind of topic. And it was a feedback, did we serve you well? Were your expectations met? And, nicely done survey. And that gives me sort of a reassurance. And in the hotel itself, if somebody comes and tells me that, I went to this other hotel last week, they didn't serve us well, they didn't support us to have the conference, and they were not flexible. And that gives me again a sort of a reassurance that no, this is not like that. They kind of supported, they kind of were flexible. That is also something that reduces the post-purchase dissonance. Maybe a manager would come to you and ask, how are you doing? Is everything all right? Because in the advertisements, if you see booking.com and things like that, they would say, we speak your language. It doesn't mean that, they can speak every language in the world. What it simply means is we can understand you, we can relate to you, we can sort of sense what you really need. But when you get there, you realize that they never speak our language, they speak something else. Hold on for a while. Right. So, although when we read that line, before we make the order, before we place the order, we speak your language, we set an expectation that, they would understand us, they would help us, they would be able to, give us what we want. But when we get there and while enjoying the service, we realize that no, it's not the case. Then, even though that sets a high expectation for us, it never gets delivered. It hardly gets delivered. Or maybe partly done, but still we are not happy.